Here we go. Yeah, did you do something? Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the 105-year-old prestigious downtown Fayetteville Rotary Club of Fayetteville. I'm David Sager. I'm your Rotary Club president from now and through June. And let's begin the meeting today with a four-way test of what we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? That of friendships. All right, Harrison Pittman is bringing our music. You can have a seat. All right, everybody take notes. Yeah. What do you got with your rain is going to be EFT. We're here. Go. For the pledge of allegiance, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's where we're at. First of all, look who's back. We've seen this since the party working. We got this back here Monday afternoon, so good piano song. Yeah, Jerry was confused. I'm on the piano, Jerry. We looked at her. I used to that. Larry home for a service. He tried to say he literally said, "Please don't do anything." You can see how that goes. As I'm going into this, if you joined the club since July 1, stand up. I know we got a couple here. This is kind of an introduction here where y'all can have a seat. Larry's actually a monster. So you know that, but his birthday he came by my house. I'm gonna tell you what happened. He wanted to go wrong thing. And I wrote the song and sent it to him, and someone sang about this. So this we get ready, right? Out in my front yard. That's how scary it was. Started getting that soon. But girls, scary music. See Larry's car pulling up. Larry's drunk. Happy birthday. He didn't even speak, he just kind of stared at me. I'm so scared. Music got scarier. But Larry, what do we got going on? Just get the call. The point, he just scooted over, put on a ski mask,
stared at me again, I was frightened. Well, Nancy, all of this is true. He said, Harrison, just keep the motor. You keep the money. It's time to me. I said, Larry, this is pretty messed up. I want to go home. He said, and I heard a holler stick up when I walk in the door. Let's know this ain't just takes so 3 minutes. What you gonna do is I lay on the floor. What? Said I take the money and run. Well, we still need to something. If we're separated, we're people I like to throw them. Take their money and run. There's you always do the thing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Thank you. Say look here. All right, visiting Rotarians, Wade Carver from the dark side. All right, members and guests, we have a few here today. Kim Smith has 2 guests.
I have one more. I have Jerry and Regina. You stand. Thank you. This is Regina Sherwood. She's the president of the Washington County Historical Society. This is Jerry Hogan, past president of the Washington County Society, and Jerry past president of the Washington County Historical Society, as am I. But welcome these.
Where everyone has a guest.
Yes, I do. I have my wife Nancy with me.
You gotta come to Rotary to learn a few things about Larry. And Christine Cook has a guest.
Steve.
And you'll be pleased to know that in this week's Fresno County Farm Bureau, I read the jokes and thought, those sound familiar. He forgot to update them. So I went to another school. But they're just as bad. They're not that bad as that. What did the horse say after it get tripped? Yeah, I'm falling and I can't get it up. The internet is full of this and cat video. What do you call an angry carrot? One of y'all got this in there. A steamed veggie. Y'all could have got it. I think y'all could have got it. Why do cows wear a belt? Come on. Don't work. Please join me in your position as I pray with our friends beside us and the persons beneath us, with the bonds of Rotary between us and a worry behind us, with our goals before us and no tax families, with a thirst for knowledge and a dream of a polio-free world. We are thankful for our Rotary friends and the mix we are sharing here today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Harrison. I missed your piano playing. Laura, do you have an announcement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Mary Allison. Since it's gonna rain this weekend and you're gonna be stuck in the house, why don't you come out to the Pauline Whitaker Center and come to the Orchid Society show? 5 major cities from Fayetteville, Tulsa, Vermont. I mean, this is kind of, we get to see like thousands of local cities in Bible. So we have to see it.
Where is this?
At the Pauline Whitaker Center. We'll be at
Okay, and I don't have a slide for this segment, but I'm introducing a new segment in our meeting. And it's a historical significance, you guys love this, where, and I haven't even really settled on a name for this yet, but I'm teasing the idea of spit and whistle with Ron. Take it away, Ron.
Spit. Listen, I'm kind of offended because I don't whittle. But I do spit. Hey, I want to take just a couple of minutes since we're doing, we're at 105 years. We're talking about history, and I wanted to give you just a few. I joined this Rotary Club in 1967, 27 years old, the youngest member of the club then, and I think that they ever had at that point. Anyway, a lot of y'all weren't here back then, and I want to tell you a little history. One of my esteemed past president friends, Hugh Brewer, they put out a little book. I call it the Rotary Bible. And I had it in my archives, so I pulled it out and I looked at it. And it's got everybody's picture and it's got the 4-way, got all kinds of stuff. And then here at the conclusion of everything, it said, this brief history of the Rotary Club of Fayetteville was initially prepared in 1979 in recognition, at the request of Fred Voitsinger, chairman of the club service. Really nice. So then I thought, well, I'll look through here. The next page has a cover on it, a page that says some constructive projects of the Rotary Club of Fayetteville. Something really nice to know. So I looked down and there's a list of them. 7. Number 5. Recognize Rotary hands 2 or 3 times each year. Rotary, Larry, back in the old days, they wouldn't let you get away with that. One of those old members would have come up and put their arm around you and said, Larry, you're a Rotarian. That ain't how we introduce our wives. We would have said, this is my Rotary Aunt Nancy. I can't tell you how offended my wife was. I can't repeat the words that she said. In any event, all you old Rotarians out there, welcome to the Rotary Club of Fayetteville. You come a long way, baby.
Yeah, we need to make that a weekly thing right there. I think he's got stories for years to share with us. We need to hear them all because I love the history. I haven't been around that long, so this helps me know what I got myself into. All right, so you'll notice I've cut through, I'm cutting out rereading all of the announcements. You get it in your newsletter. You're going to see it on the slideshow for half an hour before we start the meeting. So got just a few things to share with you, and then we can get on with our program today. Butt Cups for the month of March will be to the Community Service Inc. And so you heard about them last week as our speaker. And so another reminder, the pickleball is coming April 18th. Scholarship. I'm going to keep promoting this because the deadline is this month. So just a few more weeks to get applications in for that. The link is in the newsletter. And if you haven't put this on your calendar, be sure to protect the date. This will be an after work Wednesday thing, right? It is a Wednesday and it's after work. So I didn't know what part of my day to block out. So I've blocked out from noon on. I'll help set up, do whatever needs to be done. That'll be a great time at our Rotary Club of Fayetteville playground at Mount Kessler Regional Park. Okay, and we'll do a bit on nightclub. There was a nightclub meeting this week, and we've got pictures, and Emily, come on up and tell us what happened.
Yes, as David said, we have nightclubs on Tuesday of this week. We did a service project for the Consent Home Shelter. And we were very fortunate that, our very own Mr. Blake over there is on their board, so he gave us a little talk about, just some of the stuff that the Home Shelter does as well. Like I said, we made these goodie bags, with candy and, peanut butter crackers and trail mix. To provide, just a little happy for the people at those shelters who are going through, probably the worst thing we could ever imagine. So, that was nightclub this week. We have our second meeting of the month of March on March 17th. It will be a St. Patrick's Day social because that is St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, at Flyway Brewery. From 6 to 7, I believe we have the room until 8 though, correct person? Yes, so make plans to come out, and support a local business on March 17th, then St. Patrick's Day with, so.
All right, let's see if there's anything else before nope, I don't have anything else. So let me bring, Dr. Kim Smith to introduce our speaker today.
Can't hold this.
It's on. There. Here we go. I can't memorize anything anymore. My memory's good, just getting short, but, I want to introduce our speaker, Ms. Rebecca Lubker. Rebecca, you come on up. And Rebecca is a citizen of the Cherokee Nation and a direct descendant of Sarah Bird Northrop Ridge and John Ridge, a background that shapes her work in teaching American and Native American history. She is a board member of the Washington County Historical Society, hence all the past presidents that want to hear this talk today, where she serves as chair of the history of diversity, focusing on inclusive regional history and preservation. And I forgot to ask you how you pronounce this, but she was named the 2017 Gilder Learman Arkansas History Teacher of the Year, and later became a Gilder Learman Master Teacher, presenting at national seminars and writing curriculum used by teachers across the country. Ms. Lubker began teaching at Haas Hall Academy while she completed her graduate studies in political science at the University of Arkansas. In 2023, she became headmaster of Haas Hall Academy in Fayetteville, which I'm told that means principal. Is that it, Rebecca?
Yes.
The principal. All right, great. Where she continues to support scholar learning and school-wide academic goals. Now, John, there's a house in Fayetteville called the Ridge House. Anybody know where it is? A few of you do. Well, it's between Moore's Chapel and Center Street Church of Christ on Center Street. Well, that old house was built in what year? 1840s. And
30.
Sarah Ridge came to Fayetteville after her husband, John Ridge. And I don't want to get into too much of your story, but he agreed to the removal of the Cherokee Indians from the east to Oklahoma. And when they got over here, it's my understanding that the Indians assassinated all the chiefs that agreed to do that, which John Ridge was. So Sarah came to Fayetteville and started a girls' school. But Rebecca is a direct descendant of hers and John's, and she's going to tell you the real story. Rebecca, help me give a Rotary welcome. Rebecca Lisa. There you go. Thank you.
The next slide does say, oh, north side, sorry, I did a similar presentation on north side, so apologies. So I'm a teacher, and so I have this set up, as you can see, this is what the Smithsonian uses as times, dates, and places when we study Native history in the United States. So that is what this timeline represents, is like a standard in which Native history is studied via the Smithsonian. And so I wanted to give you kind of, the teacher in me wants to give you a timeline that is kind of used, because sometimes it can be tough to figure this out. And so this will definitely give you some pieces in that regards. And you can see a little bit of population, what happened to indigenous populations in US history. The lowest point in US history was 1900. A lot of times we think it was earlier on, but 1900 is one of the most devastating time periods. And I'll talk a little bit about that and how Fayetteville comes into play on that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is give you this history through my family's experience. So this is my 5 times great grandfather. His name is Major Ridge. Major Ridge is a young chief. He will be part of a triumvirate of chiefs after he kills a chief who's sold land. So in Cherokee Nation, it became illegal to sell land with their blood laws. And so he does the deed, he kills the chief, Chief Doublehead. There will be 3 of them that will be leading the cause. But over time, and with negotiations, he's going to come to the conclusion, we're probably going to have to remove. And he's going to come to that conclusion whenever he sends his son, John Ridge. He's going to send him to Connecticut to school to try to learn a little bit of more of white ways. And while he's up at school, he famously gets sick and has to be taken care of by the headmaster's daughter. And in that time, they fall in love. The headmaster's daughter is white. And this will be a problem for the town and for several people in the community. And the family is like, wait, you're a sickly man, because he walked with a limp. And so he goes back to Georgia and returns when he no longer requires a cane. And they're like, okay, you did the work, you can marry our daughter. So he marries Sarah Bird, Northrop Ridge, in Connecticut, and there will be a lot of protest at their wedding. And lo and behold, his cousin and Sarah's cousin will eventually get married as well, which is another Native student, Elias Bootnot, and Gould. They'll get married, and guess what they do? They close the school. The school was affectionately known as the Heathen School, and they're like, oh gosh, we can't do this. Like, look what's happening. Our girls are marrying these boys. And of course, you know, not really the most appropriate term, but they looked at them as savages. And so that was the idea of the Heathen School, is what it was referred to, was to take that part out of them. So they return back to Georgia after they get married. John ends up becoming the Speaker of the House in Cherokee Nation. So Cherokee Nation creates a 3-branch government, and he'll be in charge of the legislative branch. His counterpart is John Ross. John Ross is the chief of Cherokee Nation at that time, which was selected by his father. Major Ridge was like, hey, we need to find ways of working within the system. And so that's what's going to end up happening. Now, there are 2 modes of trying to figure out, hey, do we stay on the land or do we remove? That's the big divide that happens in Cherokee Nation. The Ross faction will say we stay on the land. The Ridge faction or treaty party will sign a treaty and say, hey, what do we do? Do we keep our sovereignty or do we keep the land? What's most important for the future and the survival of the nation? And so what ultimately happens is they will sign the Treaty of New Echota, which leads to, which will be the removal in which it's based on. So as what was talked about, once the Trail of Tears happens, more than 16,000 Cherokees and Cherokee freedmen will die on the Trail of Tears, and somebody had to pay for it. And it just so happens it was my family. So 3 members of my family died on June 22nd, 1839. John Rich will be killed at his home in what is Honey Creek in Delaware County. His cousin Elias will be killed in Park Hill, and his father, Major Ridge, will be killed at the Oklahoma border. And so that's what happened on that day. And so Sarah is going to be like, oh my gosh, they're killing us over here. And that's when she discovers Fayetteville. So there was a home for sale that she was able to purchase and move her. She has 7 children. 1 child will be in Kentucky out of school, but the other 6 will move here. Luckily and thankfully, this portrait now hangs at Crystal Bridges. It used to hang at the Ridge House. So this portrait actually used to be in Fayetteville. And then I did bring some items over, but it did travel through the family before Alice bought it. So this is who I descend from Flora. This is Flora. I descend from Flora Chamberlain Ridge, Polson. And so I actually have I have a photo of her over here, and I have a letter that she wrote in 1856 in Fayetteville. You get to learn a little bit that Fayetteville was kind of an outlaw town because it's the day before the election of 1856. And she is saying that, oh my goodness, there's going to be a shoot 'em up, knife fights in the square. The election is happening the next day. And then she also gets into the gossip of all the weddings and women marrying murderers, and then some family gossip. There's some really good family gossip. But if you're familiar with the Arkansas Traveler, that painting, the man who wrote it, she mentions him too, or who painted it, she mentions him too in the letter because it was a cousin. And so it gets into a lot of family gossip. But Flora, she will live here. Her husband will be a doctor here. They got married at the First Christian Church in 1856. So this is definitely one of the big parts of like our family story and our connection to Fayetteville. So this is her oldest daughter, Alice Polson. Alice Polson, she's someone really special in my life. And she's somebody hopefully will write something in the flashback about, but she will be the first Native graduate at the University of Arkansas. So when Flora comes, right, she brings Sophia Sawyer, and they start the Fayetteville Female Seminary. So education is something that's really important, one to Cherokee Nation, but also to the family and to the history of Fayetteville. And so the Fayetteville Seminary closes during it burns down in the Civil War because they were housing Union soldiers. They will burn it. But years later, Alice will come to the University of Arkansas, where she will graduate in 1888. And then she will become an instructor at the University of Arkansas. And when she becomes an instructor at the University of Arkansas, she takes care of her brothers. Her mom dies, and her brothers she will be in charge of their education. Here in Fayetteville, this photo was taken on what is Hughes Street, right nearby campus. And this is when she was an instructor at the university. And so she raises these 4 boys. I call them Alice's boys. My great-great-grandfather is the one with the mustache. He definitely thought very highly of himself. But one of the big things that ends up happening is a lot of people don't know that history of what happens after the Civil War, what happens there. And what ultimately ends up happening is the family goes back to Indian Territory. So they go back to Delaware County, where they initially removed to. And so most of my family is from near Southwest City, Missouri. But just on the other side is Southwest City, Oklahoma. And there's Polson Cemetery, where everybody is buried. My students ask, because there's a podcast about it, and they're like, will you be buried there? And I'm like, everybody in my family is buried there. My parents have their spot ready, and so it's a direct shot to Major Ridge. But she will educate. She'll make sure that these boys are educated. I don't know if I have it out, but I even have report cards from Pea Ridge Academy from 1891, from when they were educated at Pea Ridge as well, too. But this will be a pivotal moment. Now, the hard part with this and with Alice is in 1900, tuberculosis is sweeping across Indian territory and most of my family will die. John Henry is who I descend from. Luckily, my great-grandmother was one of the few survivors from the tuberculosis outbreak. And I feel very fortunate during that time that to have had her. She lived till she was 96 years old. So I actually knew my person on the Dawes roll. So she was on the Dawes roll when she was born. It was actually during the federal government's takeover. So her birth certificate is issued by the Department of Interior. So it's a pretty interesting one. I'll show that to the kids. I'm like, why is the Department of Interior issuing birth certificates? And so that's kind of one of those I like to show the kids, and they're like, they think parks, and I'm like, no, they do a lot with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So they may not realize that. Oh, wrong thing. Okay. So my Gigi, this is a really special picture. This is where she went to Indian day school. So a lot of, when we talk about boarding school era and that time period, my great-grandmother went to Indian day school. This school was called Peter's Prairie. Peter was enslaved by Cherokee Nation, and this will be named after him and his establishment of the land and of historic significance to this part of Delaware County. They did just recently tear down the school. So I'm working with Cherokee Nation to make sure that Peter's history and legacy is still there. Because right now, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I know there's a traveling production by Cherokee Nation about the Freedmen history, and a lot of that is tied into Arkansas as well. But my Gigi, she's in the middle at that school. This is my mom. This is a really great picture. This is when at the University of Arkansas, there was a dean, Stacy Leeds. She is the first Indigenous law dean. And now she is the law dean at Arizona State, which I think she's building up this huge, trying to create a lot of tribal attorneys right now. But in 2011, the University of Arkansas Law School hosted Cherokee Nation to do IDs. This is the first time that we had photo IDs, because before we had these white cards, blue cards. And so my mom and I, we got to go to the law school, and it was a really awesome opportunity to see how the progress has been made inside Cherokee Nation today. The other interesting thing, thanks to the governor of Oklahoma, this ID is now my hunting and fishing license. Anytime I go over, as long as I'm in Cherokee Nation land, I can hunt and fish without a permit. This is my permit because when they dissolved the compacts with the nations, we reverted back to treaties of 1866. And so that's what got reverted back. And so that is my hunting and fishing license when I go to Cherokee Nation. So I think he thought he was doing one thing and he ended up doing another, and everything reverted back to treaties do matter. So that's the other thing that I think is important when we look at treaty period and colonization period. A lot of times people don't realize that treaties do matter. They still matter to us today. And how we look like the land that you're on is a treaty that was made with the Osage Nation. So that is something I think sometimes we forget about. The other thing I should tell you is a lot of people in my family are lawyers. So in my family, you're either an educator or an attorney. And so they deal a lot with treaty rights. And so this is kind of one of those, I get to hear about it a lot. John Ridge is one of the first Cherokee attorneys. He's either the first or second when we look at that. So he was an attorney as well, and his children, that tradition will travel. But what I want to talk about is some of the big things that are popping up that we're seeing and how people are living today, I think is really important, especially educationally. If you look at the one in the middle, that's one of the lesson plans that I've written. So people understand the time period that is allotment. Allotment was where all that used to be Cherokee Nation, then all those red dots became Cherokee Nation. And so that lasted from 1887 to 1906. And so this is a time period that will be the most devastating to Native people. in the United States, especially across the border. And so some of the work that I do, I work with Stillwell High School on making culturally relevant computer science work. And it's been really exciting to watch the students talk with their great-grandparents, because if you're not familiar, when you cross over to Stillwell, that is the largest collection of first language Cherokee speakers in the United States, is Stillwell. The second is Kennewood. It looks like Kenwood, but you call it Kennewood. When you get there, is the second largest. But there's also 92 dialects of Cherokee. Because of the separation, as you can see on this map, people got really disconnected. Other things, oh yeah, because it doesn't. Some other things that you can see that I wanted to include is food sovereignty, especially here at the University of Arkansas. That is one of the big programs that they have in the legal at the law school, is the food sovereignty program, which Dean Leeds headed up in HIP. Jenny Hebb, who I got to be on a call with last night. I'm like, oh my gosh, like she's like this really important like tribal attorney. Oh my goodness. But some of the cool things that are happening that I want to shed light on today is that Cherokee Nation is doing a lot when it comes to water rights, sovereignty rights. We have our own meat packing. That's one of the cool big things that is happening. You can get meat packing, like where they have their own bison, and you can get bison from Cherokee Nation. The other big thing up in the left-hand corner is one of my favorites, is the seed bank, where they do heirloom seeds, where you have to get on a rotation to be able to draw for corn that was grown back in the 1830s. So I have a bunch of multicolored corn or white eagle corn, and I've been stockpiling because every year I don't get in the drawing, because it's become super selective and they keep changing the rules. And so it's become really popular in the nation. Marilyn Van in the middle, she's the one that fought for Cherokee freedmen to have full citizenship. And so a couple years ago, my students got to meet her. She came to class and they got to meet a real genuine civil rights activist inside Cherokee Nation, which was super exciting. The other thing though, that's really big, it's kind of covered up because normally this will click. But the big thing that I think is really important, like in a modern day connection, is Cherokee Nation today, because of the treaties, because of the recent Supreme Court cases, the treaty that John Ridge signed, Cherokee Nation is now using 180 years later to try to seat a delegate in Congress. So one of the biggest things that happened when John Ridge decided to sign, he was not an initial signer, he'll be the last person to sign the Treaty of New Echota. He said, we must have a delegate in Congress. The Cherokees will not agree to it unless we have representation in Congress. The interesting part is it's taken Cherokee Nation 180 years to be like, okay, now it's time to honor that side of the treaty. So that's one of the things that you will see right now in the news today, is trying to honor that. And when I heard the chief say that in front of Congress, quoting my ancestor, who has been persona non grata for most of history in Cherokee Nation, it was one of those like emotional times where I was thinking for my Gigi, who was like, when we go to Tahlequah, you don't tell them who you are. Because that's one of those things that's taken 180 years for the nation to heal from this period. But the other thing I think is really important is the role that Fayetteville played as that place of refuge for my family. And the fact that we're still tied to the city is something that's really important. Like I'm here. My mom was born here. My family kept coming back here to the university. My niece is the 5th generation Cherokee female graduate from the University of Arkansas, going back to 1888. And so those are those cool traditions that the city upon the hill gets to build. And I hope that everybody else gets to have those opportunities. But there's other exciting things that I think is important when we talk about Indigenous history, is that it's still here, alive and present. There's amazing shows right now. We have, and scientists and people, we're seeing the first Secretary of Interior that's Indigenous recently. We're seeing judges that are Native. We're seeing these sort of things. It was like when the Supreme Court made the ruling on the McGirt case, there was only one judge on the Supreme Court that had any background in Indian law. And that was Gorsuch, because he's the only judge from the West. And so he was the only one. And so when he was the one who wrote the opinion, you knew we won. And so that was one of those exciting moments. But there's a lot of TV shows that are out there. I really highly suggest watch. Rutherford Falls is really great. Reservation Dogs is really great. We're seeing a lot of work with NASA. The other thing a lot of people aren't aware of, I know a lot of people are aware of HBCUs, but there's also TCUs, tribal colleges and universities. Most of them used to be boarding schools, and then the tribes took them over, and now they're tribal colleges. So one of the big ones nearby is Haskell. Haskell in Kansas is one of our big ones, because a lot of times we talk about Carlisle, but there are a lot near our border. But yeah, I was trying to keep it quick.
Well, we got 5 minutes.
5 more minutes. Does anybody have any questions about, oh, I do want to tell you, I brought family documents. So over here, I have a family album. I have the one photo I did bring. Some of you might know Elias C. Bootnott. He was an attorney and editor here in Arkansas. I have one of his photos. I have the letter from 1856. I have a family Bible that is also made out from Fayetteville, Arkansas, and it will probably be from 1891. And it's one of those things that's really kind of important, is that there's always been, since 1840, Cherokee history that has been here in this town. And so it still exists today. I will tell you the other special caveat that Washington County and Benton County have is because there's so many Cherokee Nation citizens, we get a special status inside the nation because there are so many here in Washington and Benton County. Now, when we say so many, it's not like a huge number, but for Cherokee Nation, it is. It is. So that sometimes like we blow those numbers out of proportion. But I just wanted, I brought some items for y'all if y'all want to see them and check out some local history. Yeah. Okay, questions.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Ron?
See those license plates say Cherokee Nation around, or some of those issued by Arkansas, they all Oklahoma.
They're gonna all be Oklahoma. I talked to my at-large counselor, and that's one of the things that they were hoping to be able to do for Arkansas. Because your big counties, for Arkansas, it's Sebastian County, Washington County, and Benton County have the largest Cherokee populations.
Jack Butt.
Two questions.
Mhm.
What percentage Cherokee are you, and do you speak Cherokee?
A little bit, like Donadil Gahi, but Cherokee, an interesting thing is Cherokee is not Cherokee. It's Algonquin. It's what the Algonquins called the Cherokee people. It's Chakagali. And whenever you're on your way out to the baseball field, Baum Stadium, when you cross over, that's Chakagali Parkway, like the trailway is there. And so that's actually what Cherokee is. I'm 116. Yeah.
Does the casino benefit Cherokees?
Yeah, so like when I was growing up, I got zero benefit. My child hopefully will get the scholarship for education. So the casino money typically goes for healthcare and education. So that's one of the, keep going to the casino, because my child is a senior. My child's a senior next year. So that scholarship money, but that was non-existent whenever I was in college, because that's one of those are like, oh, they just get to go to college for free. No, my parents had to pay for that. Maybe about 10 years ago. It's now some tribes are different. They all work very independently. They're not all synonymous.
Roger?
So Ridge is an anglicized version of his name, his name that he had, because his name in Cherokee meant the one who walked on mountaintops. And so when they anglicized it, the other interesting thing is he got his anglicized first name of Major, his father, Because like on the backside of whenever he was in the War of 1812, Major Ridge, it just says the Ridge on his tombstone. Because he was the one who walked on mountaintops. The other interesting thing that you'll find in Native naming tradition, he actually had 2 or 3 names throughout his life. You had a name from when you were younger, and then a name that would kind of change to match your personality type, and then to like whenever you become an adult. So you would see names change pretty regularly. So that sometimes is a hard one when you're doing research. But yeah, so that's the anglicized. But he got major from Andrew Jackson.
All right, thank you so much. Something for you. As a token of our appreciation, I'd like to present to you this rampaging razorback on a rotary wheel. Hog and a cog is easier to say. I hope you'll display it proudly. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rotarians, for coming out today. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. This meeting is adjourned.
All right, Cheryl, Ellen and Susan and Otto, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Thank
Not
you.
that I know of.
Take care.
Way to go.
Thank you.
Good program. for
Good
sure.
to see you. too.
Yep. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello. You'll be in the first room to the left.